everyone. Today I have a really good friend of mine, Mangesh Adayu. He's someone whom I know for almost a decade now. Mangesh has more than 12 years of experience as a business analyst, business architect, worked in various projects ranging from loyalty program to GDPR, from billing to agile analysis. His area of interest is specifically lean agile analysis, building strategic models, and also looking at new technologies and fintech. So, welcome, Mangesh, for this conversation. Thank you for giving time.
Thanks, Abhishek. Thanks for those kind words. So nice of
Uh,
you.
and my first question, Mangesh, to you is how is your typical office day looks like?
So if you look at the business analysis for every business analyst, a typical day at work might differ based upon the team that he's working in, the organization, how his role is set up, and also at what kind of experience level you are. So for me, typically my everyday starts with a daily stand-up, and this daily stand-up, I do one of the following things in a day. So for example, I would be investigating the goals and issues. So what that means is many a times I get caught up in certain situations or certain assignments wherein I try to investigate on a continuous basis what the goals are, what are the various problems at hand I have, and then trying to find a way out of it by collecting a lot of information, then analyzing that information, and then taking certain decision or evaluating certain let's say the options or the alternatives that I have for the solution. Also, most of the time, so I would say that around 50 to 60% of my time goes into communication, because that is an essential part of any business analyst, wherein the business analyst need to communicate with the stakeholders on an ongoing basis, and at times this communication needs to be very structured communication, so that first of all the purpose of communication is solved. So we have, like, the message that we want to send across, and the various solutions that we want to put forward. I think those needs to be communicated well. The other thing I would say I do is and in the remaining time that I have, I usually document my findings and my observations. So that's again an important part for the business analyst. So be it in terms of the epics or the user stories or any designs or modeling that I do, data modeling, and whenever I have to present these modelings. This is typically what I do.
Okay, so thank you very much, Mangesh, for this answer. So, as I understood, you mentioned one point where you need to present yourself in a structured way to various stakeholders. Is there any specific methods or ideas that you put across so that any communication is more structured?
Yes, so I usually resort to quite a few types of patterns when it comes to the communication. Since I'm currently working in the agile, um, the most structured way of communication for us are some of the ceremonies that we have in agile. So we do a lot of deliberation on the product discovery phase, as well as in the product backlog refinement. And during this, in order for us to be able to set the priorities for some of the product backlog items, and to get the right level of details, we need to get a lot of information from the customers and the end users who are and who will be using our product. So we set up a lot of focused discussions. So that's the first template that we do. So we do a lot of interviews, and these interviews are like, we do a lot of preparation and upfront, so that those we have like structured set of questions based upon the objective of that particular interview. and then whatever information we receive, we kind of analyze that information, and uh, yeah, so we analyze, and then we process, and then yeah, document it. The other
Mhm.
pattern that I think works well is that for the communication, one of the important tool and an asset that or a skill that a business analyst should have is storytelling.
Mhm.
So we really need to understand the client needs
Mhm.
and the client problems, because
Mhm.
many a times what I have seen in my experience is that the real problem is not what the customer tell us.
Mhm.
Okay, the real problem lies somewhere else, and
Mhm.
it is the responsibility of a business analyst to really probe into whatever the customers or the users are telling us,
Mhm.
and then get to the bottom of the root cause of that particular problem, and
Mhm.
then try to solution it, instead of taking anything like prima facie. And I think that that is the important thing, which is also a part of communication as a whole.
Mhm. Mhm.
Ranjit.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. So one of the thing I found interesting in your profile is you also mentioned about business architecture. So how do you differentiate a business analyst role and a business architecture role?
So when it comes to the business analysis, right? So business analysis is more of, let's say you have a pyramid of purpose at the organization level. Yeah. You have strategic objectives of the organization, and those strategic objectives are then come, uh, decomposed down to the strategic outcomes. And for each one of these strategic outcomes, so we have, like, what. So it is only defined as what at that particular level. So let's say, like, an organization wants to be in the top 5 service providers in a given market. So this is kind of a strategic objective we have. And then when it comes to the how part of it, that is exactly where the business analysts add a lot of value, because they try to define that how exactly, based upon the current offerings that the organization has, they can achieve that particular objective. So that's more of a business analysis part of it. So the business analyst will typically speak to the customers, try to understand their needs, their problem, what are the services offered by the organizations, and then try to do a kind of fit gap analysis, try to find the solution to those gaps, either internally or externally to the organization. And they will arrive at a certain product which would then be used by its customers and the end users, for example, and then they will derive a value out of it. However, the business architect's role is to keep the long term into perspective and make sure that all the functional and the domain architecture that's there in the organization is fulfilling the needs of the solutions that the business analyst or the solution architects or the development team is developing. So the business architects really thinks from that perspective, and he kinds of thinks ahead of time. Let's say like 4 years down the line, based upon the market trends that we have, how exactly we want to address those market trends so that the organization as a whole can be relevant in the race.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. So, if I need to sum up my understanding, the business architect looks at the what part of the solution, and the business analyst look at the how part of the solution. So the business architect, as it is at a higher level, which look at the what and the why part, why the solution need to be built and what need to be built and how it need to be built is more from the business analyst point. One of the question that is often asked by many of my subscriber on the channel is, how do you see a career of a business analyst? Because normally in IT industry, the career progression for a typical a developer or engineer is very well defined. So you become a engineer, you move to team lead, project manager, senior project manager, and you keep on going. In case of a business analyst, You have just a business analyst or a senior business analyst. What next? I mean, do you have any thoughts over it?
Yes, absolutely, and that's a very wise question, actually. Yeah. So what I would say in that respect is that when I started my journey, so when I first started working in the information technology industry, I joined as a developer. And then eventually, when I was working on some of the development projects way back, like 14 years back, I guess. So then I found out that this role of a business analyst, a person who was a business analyst in my project, I really liked the way he was applying his skills to solve a problem for the organization and for the clients. And that's how I was inclined to take up this role. But if you look at from last 10 or 12 years or so, even the business analysis role has evolved a lot. Yeah. So earlier, if you look at it, it was like we still had no agile methodologies. So we were working into waterfall, and we had a luxury of having all the named resources in the team. So we had luxury of having all the technical architects, the senior technical architects. We had a separate developer team. Then we had a separate testing team. We had a separate business analysis team and the project manager and so on. But from then and from now, there is a considerable amount of difference. Now we are working more in the agile way, and the more focus is on providing the business value to customers very early in the life cycle. Yeah, so even from now, this role has evolved a lot. But one thing that has surely not happened is that this role has not lost its relevance. Okay, so this role, a business analyst role, is still as much as relevant how it was like 10 years back or 12 years back, and I'm quite sure that in the future also this role is going to be even more relevant, because I see business analysts as someone who guides the entire team, who bears that torch in the dark, and makes sure that everyone else in the team sees the path with a lot of clarity, a lot of unambiguity. And this is how so they are kind of the torch bearers who would make sure that with the right set of focus and right set of skills, the entire project will be successful. And in the future, I think since we have moved from a conventional business analysis in a waterfall, now we are in the age where we are doing more of a agile analysis by employing, like continuous collaboration, working very closely with the testing teams. So I think the future is definitely I, I see that this role is moving towards the product ownership as well as product management, wherein instead of simply working at the delivery horizon, wherein we try to identify some of the problems, we try to document those requirements, and then hand it over to the implementation team so that they can then develop something. Then we help them in testing. I think going forward, business analysts will actively play a role of a product owner, because they would then have a necessary domain skills, as well as that connect with the stakeholders within the bank, as well as outside the bank. And also there's a very important third dimension, which is the dimension in terms of the financial responsibility, as in how can we make sure that a particular product is delivered within the constraint of time, scope, quality, and also the money. So I think that is going to be more of a third dimension, which will be, or the fourth dimension, which will be added in future in the scope of business analysis. That's how I look at it.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you very much. I think you gave a few really good point. One, of course, is the relevance is not lost, and second, now we have more defined path for a business analyst, starting as a business analyst to a product owner to a program manager or a product manager, and then maybe an epic owner, and what say safe defined more in specific to the business counter. If you have a business analyst in a team and also a product owner, will there be a conflict of interest or a very thin line that separates them, or sometime one role can be seen as other counterpart, and the organization essentially feel that why do we need two people? I mean, let's do a cost optimization. Any thoughts over that?
Yes. As I also mentioned, I think the logical next step for a business analyst is to fit into the shoes of a product owner or a product manager moving forward. But if you look at these two roles right now, so like on one hand we have the product owner and on the other hand we have the business analyst. I think the sphere of influence is completely different. So the product owner is typically interested in making sure that he prioritizes features, what needs to be developed in the product, so that he can then deliver value um, to the to the customer or the end users. Uh, However, there is one consideration that product owner cannot take into account, which is on the technology side. So he can only prioritize from his perspective, like this particular feature will add the maximum value to their customers. However, a business analyst will always definitely have some background about the domain as well as the technology that the team is working on. And I think that's the major difference, as in whenever it comes to the prioritization, the feasibility aspect is something where the business analyst can provide more realistic solutions, more feasible solutions, and they can also evaluate the various alternatives that we have for solution in terms of like pros and cons, which in turn helps the product owners to make a decision in terms of prioritization. So I think these two there are some similarities about these roles in terms of how we manage the requirements, how we document the features and all. But still, I think the perspective from the technology side is something that is something where BA has added advantage.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's a great point. So, as I understood correctly, the product owner essentially look more from the desirability point of view,
Yes.
and the business analyst will look at more from the feasibility point of view, and that's where these two sphere connects and don't overlap. Yeah, so that's a great point that you have made. My last question is more from the point of view of a beginner. So, if somebody wants to start his or her career as a business analyst, do you have any recommendation, or how should someone start his or her career as a business analyst?
So I think the first and the foremost thing that one should have, if they are willing to start the career in business analysis, is, I would say, the curiosity. The curiosity is one single thing that differentiates you from a very good business analyst and not so good business analyst, because with curiosity you should have that eagerness to learn something new every day, and also to make sure that you have that you show that empathy towards your clients, your customers or end users, to try to really understand their problems, and then make sure that you have a right amount of analytics skills, as well as the problem solving skills, to make sure that you try to solution that and try to address that particular problem. So I would say that the first thing is that you should do is try to build that curiosity. First of all, that you have a nick for knowing a lot of things which are happening around you, including the problems, including the solutions, some hold on the technology and the domain side. The next thing is do join the IIBA chapter in your local city. I think it helps immensely. So we have very good set of business analysts who are part of IBA chapters in local cities, and that's where you try to understand on the web seminars as well as in some of the sessions that we conduct, how exactly business analysis is done. And I would say that they should look at business analysis not from a very myopic vision of software industry, but they should try to understand the business analysis as a whole, because business analysis is not something which happens only in the software industry. It happens across industries, and the scope of this is really, really wide, and it will really open up the gates for opportunities in future. And then the last but not the least is the networking, because at the end of the day, whenever you are a business analyst, you end up speaking with people like 60 or 70% of the time every single day. And these communication skills, along with the interpersonal skills to connect with people, to listen, to observe, and then communicate, I think this helps immensely every single day.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mangesh. So one of the key point you mentioned is, of course, curiosity. And this reminds me of the Naval Ravikant's statement, who states that it's the willingness of learning new things that differentiate a good life and a great life. So that's is what you meant here. And this also, you also brought a really relevant point, which says that business analyst role is industry agnostic, which essentially means you can move around industry, you can move around domains and try to learn new things. And third, and the most important thing, is try to see people who you want to be. You need to get into IIBA community. So thank you very much, Mangesh, for your time. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I hope people on the YouTube channel will get immense help with this as well. So thank you very much once again, and then if you like this video, do like, share and subscribe.
Thanks a lot.